The Commanders are looking to bring in some help at wide receiver. And don't forget, the Dallas Cowboys did, in fact, trade their best player. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the second road trip edition of the Full Command Show. My name is Grant Mitchell, and we are here to talk about everything involving the Washington Commanders. You guys know I've been battling a little bit of a sickness. I'm sorry if you still hear it in my voice. I'm starting to feel a lot better, actually, but I promised you guys I was going to bring you the content even while I was away, and I'm making sure that I follow through on that, because although some of the major headlines have died down in the wake of Terry McLaurin signing his contract and all that great stuff, we do still have some news to report coming out of Ashburn, Virginia. As I mentioned, the Commanders looking to bring in some potential help at wide receiver. Laramie Tunsil talked about Jayden Daniels. And of course, this couldn't be a Commanders channel if we didn't dive into the Cowboys making an absolute mockery of themselves. Guys, we're going to get into all of that in just a moment here. Before we do, make sure you smash the like button, especially if you are excited that the Commanders don't have to see MICAH Parsons twice a year anymore. I can't believe that it actually happened. I can't believe Jerry folded like that. We are going to talk about it in just a second, but let's go ahead and let's move on over to what is actually happening in the directly related to the Commanders. The MICAH stuff is great. It's going to make the Commanders schedule easy, but let's keep it in-house to start this one. So the Commanders are looking to bring in a potential wide receiver free agent addition, Kendrick Bourne, the 30-year-old former undrafted free agent who signed for the first time with the 49ers, I want to say in 2018, 2017. I could be getting that timeline wrong. But point being, he did start his NFL career with the San Francisco 49ers, so he has a connection to Adam Peters. He spent the last few years playing for the New England Patriots. Over the last 3 seasons, he had 6 total touchdowns, averaged about 300 to 400 receiving yards per season. He's not going to be anything outstanding, nothing special, but when you come to a room that has Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown and Deebo Samuel and Jalen Lane and Luke McCaffrey, you're not expected or you're not really wanted to catch 800 to 1,000 yards. No, 300 to 400 will do the job. Also factoring in the receiver help, the offensive line, the running back room. There's not a massive role for somebody to fill. So if Kendrick Bourne can come in and supply those 400 yards and 3 to 4 touchdowns, that would be a massive help to this team. It would also just give them depth and more security, because the biggest problem with only carrying 5 receivers on the roster is if one person does go down, then all of a sudden you're only at 4. And in some sets, if you're running empty, you could have 4 receivers on the field at one time. One of those guys gets injured, and all of a sudden all that stuff comes out of the playbook because you've expended all of your receiver help. So once again, Kendrick Bourne, not going to set the world on fire, but I would like to see him in this Commanders room. There have been some other potential options that could have been followed, and we don't know who the Commanders tried to place waiver claims for. Obviously, none of them were granted, but they were picking 29th out of 32. So it's possible they put in claims for other receivers and just didn't have them filled. But I would expect this deal, although he is visiting the 49ers on Monday and the Commanders on Tuesday, I would expect this Kendrick Bourne deal to get done, but we will wait and see. Hopefully we should know by the end of Tuesday. Wednesday, I feel like at the latest, unless he wants to draw this out for a really unnecessary reason. So we will have more updates coming to the channel. Guys, make sure you do hit that subscribe button if you want daily updates, reactions when the games are being played, all that great stuff to everything that is going on involving the Washington Commanders. Now let's talk about what happened out on the practice field yesterday. Not a lot of stuff, but it was cool to see the clips from the reporters who were there, really just showcasing that Terry McLaurin was back at practice. The vibes were high. Deebo Samuel did a phone call with Grant and Danny. He said, expect this team to score a lot of points. The vibes are just high. And despite all the Terry stuff, the culture in the locker room has been so strong that even with that uncertainty going on, there was never really a sense of negativity inside the locker room. But now with Terry back and with Noah Brown back and Brandon Coleman's there and Sam Cosmi's on the way back, it just feels like everything is starting to fall into place. And this MICAH news as well, I'm sure the team is happy about that. Also coming out of Ashburn, like I mentioned at the start of this video, we did get a quote from star tackle Laramie Tunsil, who's about to be playing his first season in the burgundy and gold. He was asked about Jayden Daniels, and it's so funny because I love how joking but also serious Tunsil is when he speaks to the media. You can tell that he's a guy who's on one hand a veteran of the NFL and very good at what he does, but on the other hand, he doesn't really play any games, and I appreciate that about him. So here's what he said about Jayden Daniels. He said, quote, "He's a dog. I don't know why y'all keep asking me about Jayden. I don't know what more y'all want to see or hear. He got it. He really got it. There's no blowing smoke up his ass. He's really got it." And when you hear those quotes from I think left tackle is probably recognized as one of the toughest positions in the NFL. Toughest as in difficult, yes, but a more so. Excuse me. The player that has to play at their level of toughness, you probably got to be one of the toughest guys in the NFL. So for Tunsil to be 6'5", 300, however many pounds he is, to be that tough, to be that constantly available throughout his career, and to be a four-time Pro Bowler now in his 30s, for him to be saying that about a 24-year-old who's only played one season in the NFL, and everybody was worried that was a skinny little kid who was going to get knocked on his behind and be out for the rest of the season or even his career. For him to say that shows the level of confidence that he has in Jayden. And let's be honest, Tunsil, he's only been here during the offseason. He wasn't here firsthand to witness what Jayden was able to do as a rookie. And this entire offseason, it sounded as if the offense hasn't been at its best. And the absences of Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown have really limited what the offense can show. And so for Tunsil to still recognize all of that and see what Jayden has to offer without even seeing him at his best, even seeing him between the white lines in a regular season game, shows just what the expectations are for Jayden in his second season. And some people might say that's unfair to set the bar that high, but I'll be honest, when you set your own bar that high, you're held to your own standards. That's why some people can suffer from success. You know, CJ Stroud still had a pretty good year last year, but because his offensive line completely fell apart and his top three receivers were injured and he started to take some sacks and he started to force some throws, people said it was a sophomore slump. It's like, no, CJ Stroud still played a very good year. The system around him just collapsed, and he had set the bar so high for himself that it was going to be hard for him to live up to that. So again, ultimately, Tunsil does have high standards, but I think we all do for Jayden Daniels. So it's actually encouraging more than anything to hear this. Now, I don't want to wait to discuss this any longer. Let's talk about Micah Parsons, because this is I can't believe this happened. I think that's the easiest way to start this off. I can't believe this happened because Jerry Jones has kicked the can down the road with his previous contracts. He did it with Dak Prescott. I believe he tagged Dak once or twice. They finally get the deal done at the last minute. They get the deal done with CeeDee Lamb like the day of kickoff of NFL Week 1. He had said, when he spoke just 4 or 5 days ago, he had said that Micah Parsons needs to understand that he's under contract for 3 more years. He'd already played his 4 years. They'd trigger the 5th-year rookie option. And then by saying he's under contract for 3 years, that means you're going to hold him for that 5th year and then franchise tag him twice more. Jerry had said when he was talking to Michael Irvin that I made Micah an offer that I was going to make him the highest paid defensive player in the history of the NFL, highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the NFL as well. So for this all to have broken down because Jerry he didn't want to send the contract to the agent. He didn't want to discuss with the agent. He only wanted to discuss with Micah. This is just a sign that this entire ordeal was driven out of ego. And above all else, it makes me so grateful to have Adam Peters leading my team. And I know that AP split some opinions with how he went about his negotiations with Terry. And yes, it went on longer. The whole ordeal went on longer than any of us would have liked it. Terry admitted that. Adam Peters admitted that. But they finally got to a resolution. And that resolution was, despite Terry demanding a trade, or a demand that he said in his press conference the other day, that was a real demand. At that point, he did not want to be in Washington. For Adam Peters to ride that wave, stay steadfast in what he knew was best for the team, and also best for Terry to keep him around, but not sacrifice the long-term future of the franchise by overpaying Terry, for him to navigate all of that and then come out with a deal, which I dove into yesterday in my video. Make sure you go check it out. It's very controversial. Basically, I said that the Commanders are set up well to cut Terry McLaurin if they come to that, if they realize they come to that part of the contract and where he's at. But if you look at the way this contract is set up, Terry, he's got 4 years under contract right now. This coming season is the last year of the previous deal he had signed, and then he's got a 3-year extension on that. So it's 4 years. Those first 2 years of the deal, the cap hit is, I think, $17.5 million, and then it goes to $18.5 million, and then the back half years are $35 and $39 million cap hits. But Terry's not due any guaranteed money in those years. There's also a potential out for the team halfway through the contract for $18 million. So basically, you're paying $17.5 million for Terry this year, $18.5 million for Terry the year after, and then if you wanted to cut him, you could pay $18 million against the cap versus $35 million for him. So to see the flexibility that the team has maintained by making it an incentive-based contract, by backloading the cap hits, and kind of stacking the odds almost against Terry. I'm a little shocked that Buddy Baker allowed Terry to sign this contract, honestly, because the way it's set up, Terry, we talk about the whole age 30 threshold being where receivers and skill position players start to decline. Adam Peters and company set up this contract so at Terry's age 32 season, they could cut him there if he's not performing. And let's be honest, how many 32-year-old receivers are going to be giving you 10 touchdowns, 80 receptions, and 1,100 yards in a season? On one hand, if Terry's still doing that, then they're not going to cut him and they're going to pay him his money because it's well earned. But if he's not at that level, they have the flexibility to get out from underneath it before they get buried. For him to be, for Adam Peters to be so savvy in doing that and constructing that contract while also recognizing that he was never going to trade Terry, while also getting Terry to not make such a massive fuss that it didn't distract the entire team. And then you compare that to the Cowboys, where again, Jerry had said he was going to offer MICAH the money. He had offered MICAH the money that MICAH would have needed to stay in town. MICAH wanted to be a Cowboy. He wanted to be the highest paid defensive player in the NFL. Jerry was prepared to do all of that. He just didn't want to talk to David Mulugheta, MICAH Parsons' agent. He just didn't want to speak to him because his own ego got in the way. When you compare these two situations, it illustrates the difference between having not just a competent, but a very good front office personnel and general manager, and then having Jerry Jones, who is a legend of the NFL, but at this stage, is he the GM? Again, I said this in my video the other day. He has some official title with the team. I don't know if he's the GM, but he's basically running the show, and he's probably the worst in the NFL at this point because that trade package they got from MICAH, I'll be honest, that's peanuts. Two first-round picks and Kenny Clark, who is a 29-year-old defensive tackle who had 1 sack in the worst season of his career last year. This is 2 first-round picks that are probably going to be late in the first round because the Packers, even if you're not a huge Jordan Love guy like I'm not, I don't think they're Super Bowl contenders even with MICAH. But with that being said, are they going to win a minimum of 11 games? Yeah, probably. So are they going to win a playoff game? Yeah, probably. So these first-round picks the Cowboys got for MICAH Parsons, they're going to be picks like 25 to 29 in the draft. So you're getting 2 picks in the late 20s and Kenny Clark from MICAH Parsons, who had the highest pressure rate in the NFL last season. If you look at all players since MICAH entered the NFL, MICAH has the highest pressure rate out of all of them. He's a perennial Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Last year on a per-game basis was actually his most productive season. And now MICAH's motivated. He's going to a new organization where they've just rewarded him with an absurd contract. Normally when these contracts happen, when you're resetting the market, you reset the market by $500,000, $1 million, something like that. Myles Garrett signed for 40. So what happens? TJ Watt signs for 41. Well, the Packers gave MICAH $47 million a year. So they've given them just this enormous contract. And maybe that was David Mulugheta saying, hey, look, if you're going to get this deal done, not only do you have to trade for MICAH, but you have to give us a contract extension, and we're not coming if it's not a raise according to taxes. If Mulugheta said, hey, we need the $47 million for it to actually be an increase in pay compared to the taxes living here in Texas, maybe that's what it took for the Packers to do it. But for them to give up that much money and the Cowboys to get so little in return, I'll be honest, the Cowboys are not going to be a threat for a long time. And it's not that I don't want to say that they weren't a threat recently, because prior to last season, they won 12 games 3 years in a row. Now, would that have happened if they were that team and the Commanders were the team they currently are? Would that have changed the calculus? Now, would the Cowboys have won 10 or 11 games? Sure, it's possible, but they were still a good team. Last year, they were not good, and you can blame that on injuries to Dak Prescott and MICAH Parsons, sure. But a fully healthy Dallas Cowboys team right now, what are they good at? What do? They can't run the ball. They can't stop the run. They've lost DeMarcus Lawrence and MICAH Parsons, so they're not going to be rushing the passer either. That means their secondary is probably going to get exposed because they're not going to get any front-end support. And then offensively, who do they have? Dak and CeeDee Lamb and a suspect offensive line. The offensive line could be good, could also be bad because they're young and rebuilding. And Dak Prescott's somewhat immobile at this stage of his career. So I'll be honest, the Cowboys, it seems like they're just fully blowing it up. Yet they traded their best player for a trade package that's almost equivalent to what the Jets got for Jamal Adams. I don't understand this in any shape or form. Jerry Jones said that he didn't mind trading MICAH within the conference, but he was never going to do a deal within the division. I get that. I wouldn't want that either. I wouldn't want the Commanders to trade one of their best players or their best player to the Cowboys or the Giants or the Eagles. But Deron Payne and 2 first-round picks is better than Kenny Clark and 2 first-round picks. Whatever the Eagles would have offered, would they have offered Jordan Davis and 2 first-round picks? Would the Giants have offered? I mean, they don't need Micah because they've already got an insane defensive line. But point being, you could have found this exact package from pretty much every team in the NFL, and you could have gotten more from, I would say, at least a handful of teams. That would be my assumption. So I just can't believe this. Now, on one hand, it is a great thing that Mike is out of the NFC East. It's funny because it seemed like he was going to go to Philly or Washington once it became clear that he didn't want to be in Dallas. I thought somehow that's where he's going to end up. So he's out of the NFC East, so the Commanders don't have to face him twice a year anymore. But because he is with the Packers, that means the Commanders are going to see him in week 2 on a short week on Thursday Night Football at Lambeau Field. So that's definitely going to be interesting. I think we as a collective have to hope that Micah, he was practicing with the team at the start of the summer, then he stopped. Hopefully he loses shape very quickly and he's a little bit out of shape. Can't stay on the field for his normal amount of reps. I went back and I looked at the outcomes of week 2 Thursday Night Football games because it's right at the start of the season. So some players are probably still not in their best shape. You'll hear football players say all the time, the best way to get in football shape is by playing football. And if you haven't, when it's week 1, you haven't done that yet. So week 2, you just got your first taste of it and it's a short week. Your body doesn't have much time to recover. So I went back and looked, and 4 of the last 5 home teams won their week 2 Thursday Night Football games. So that's a bad sign for the Commanders because, again, they're on the road. Now, the positive sign is the road team won last year when the Buffalo Bills beat the Miami Dolphins. So that's something to hold on to. But, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you go to the comment section. Leave me your thoughts on the Kendrick Bourne signing, the Laramie Tunsil quotes, and, of course, the whole Micah Parsons trade. I know that my mind is still boggled by that. So make sure you go to the comment section and leave me your thoughts there. Hit the like button if you did enjoy this video. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'm coming out with daily uploads, probably with the exception of tomorrow. If it's possible, I will upload tomorrow, but I will be attending a wedding pretty much all day. I am the DJ and the MC, so I'm looking forward to that. I'll be able to put this microphone to good use, I guess. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Like I said, like, subscribe, comment, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one. Have a great day.